Welcome to Read Between the Wines, where two bibliophiles discuss our love of the written word from cover to cover and cork to glass. Pour yourself a beverage and join us for this week's episode. Cheers!
Hey, welcome back to Sleeves.
So I think we have to just have a weekly reveal of the sleeves that are happening. I don't have, I have color on today, but
You
they're
have
not
sleeves. Yes.
I do have sleeves. I have color on today, so we will take it. I'm like, we'll take it.
Right?
We'll
I
let
feel
it
like it just
slide.
needs a moment.
Right? I love the fringe on yours too. That's a great sweater. Is that a House
Yes,
of Perna sweater?
it is House of Perna.
I love House of Perna. That's
Same.
fantastic.
Same.
I was like,
Needs
I love
its
them.
moment.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, we should just share one of their stories in our Instagram after we upload this
Yeah,
so that people know
it's
who
just
House of Perna is, because the woman who owns
colorful
it,
and
I think her
lovely.
name is Amanda. She's lovely. We got to meet her previously and she's fantastic.
Lovely
So,
is an understatement. She is
right?
fantastic. Yes.
She's a joy, a bright light, who we just
Yes.
happened to meet while we were on a trip together almost 2 years ago now. Right?
Crazy.
I think so.
Yes.
I think it was. So we'll see. But that is not what we're here to talk about today, weirdly. I don't mind mentioning it, but
We don't
definitely
hate it though.
right? Not sponsored, but also worth mentioning.
Yes, definitely.
We'll take it. But today we're talking about our month roundup, right? Like what we read over the last month. We're going to aim to do these toward the end of the month next time. I know this one is coming out at the beginning of the month, but it's, it all counts. End, beginning, it's the winter months, yes. Right? It's the winter months. Everything runs together. January was 9,000 days long. So,
longest year
super excited.
ever. January
right,
is.
January is always the longest year. So happy that is in the past and we can kind of move on to different things. But I don't know about you, but I got a really good start on my book reading.
I know. I've been watching yours stack up and I love it. I'm very excited.
I'm way excited. So, how do we want to start?
Yeah. Do we want to go through our whole list or we want to go one by one? What are we thinking?
Let's back and forth it. Yes, let's back and forth because okay. I'm going to kind of chunk some of mine because they kind of go together. So that way it's not so many.
Okay, perfect.
So it works.
So my first book that I read, I will talk about.
Perfect.
Because it's actually yours.
It
was the first book I read in this year because I knew that I was on a short time frame to get it back to you. And I was like, okay, hey, this is the appropriate time.
I'm not running a tight ship here. You could have kept it for a long time. I appreciate it.
I could have, but I had free cargo back to you.
You did have free shipping.
So it was like, why not take advantage of our book mule? So I did that. So I read Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, yes. Which is my very scholarly. In my review, I actually refer to it as Sunshine Academia rather than Dark Academia.
Oh, I like that.
Because, right? It was scholarly. It was her, what is it? Field study
yes.
of the different Fae areas. And the first book and the second book kind of go together. So I may be lumping them together, but just and it's written in a diary style almost, yes. But maybe more of a scholarly journal where she's writing down everything she encounters, and it's just very fun and lighthearted and an easy fantasy to get into, and like I said, total sunshine academia.
Yeah,
which I'm actually loving.
It's one of those, I remember because after I finished reading the first one, I was like, oh, this is so cute. I just rolled directly into the second. Yes. And I was very excited for that, knowing that there's a third that comes out the day after we post this.
I was going to say, it's February.
I think it's the 4th or the 5th. Yeah, I think it's next week. So very excited about that because I definitely went into my local bookstore and was like, hi, this one? Do you have the next one? And she was like, not till February. And I was like, dang it. But it's such a cute little, I love the characters. It's easy. It's super easy to get into. Yeah. And it doesn't feel I don't feel like I'm doing work, right? Mm-mm. There are some books that I feel like I'm doing work. Yes. So love
Definitely.
both of those. Highly recommend them. And
Love
I'm sure I
that.
will recommend the third one as well. So not
Absolutely.
worried about it.
The third one will be in our February roundup.
Right? It's probably gonna be on both of ours.
Yes.
And I know I have one book that will be on both of ours as well. For this one, we talked about it earlier,
Uh-huh.
so there's a couple
I
books that
know.
I will like skip over.
I know
So
the
for
one
this
you're
one,
talking about.
right? Because like
Yeah,
he's
and no
watching.
spoilers, just in case.
Right? We're not gonna say anything that really happens. We'll give an overview, but that's it.
Yeah.
So
Sweet.
perfect. That's the first one that you finished for this
Yep.
year. Your
For this year,
inaugural
January.
2025 book.
That was
Yes,
my
for January.
inaugural one. Yes.
Nice. I actually like finished up some of my like December reads in January because I was like, oh, we still like it kind of held over, right? So I feel like
Yeah.
the first couple days of January were still part of like the kids' holiday, and it still felt a little bit like holiday-ish, like we were coming off the back end of the holiday, and
Yeah.
people weren't really like back to work or anything like that. So I
And
actually
it's been
finished
so
up.
cold for you.
Oh my God, it's been
So it just
freezing.
felt cozy and like
Well,
wintry, like
to
a
be completely honest
continuation
with
of.
you, right? To be completely honest with you, my children went to school 8 full days in the month of January. That's it. 8 full days. Because everything else was a holiday or a snow day or a delay day. So we've had some time to read because nothing else could happen.
Yes.
Right? We were just stuck at home. But the
Stuck
first two
inside.
that, right? The first two that I finished were I did A December to Remember and I did Christmas at the Lake, which were super like, they were part of the book haul that I picked up like end of November that had a bunch of December books. I did not read all of my December books that had like December or Christmas or whatever in them, but I read like, got six, which is not bad for a December.
No, and now
Um,
you have six for this year. So
right.
it's
And so
perfect.
I have a couple that I like looked at and I was like, oh, I'm gonna I'm gonna leave you. You are next December. Like it's not like it's gonna
Yes.
expire. The book's not gonna expire.
Right.
So I took
Right.
those December books and I like shelved them and I was like, go over there. But I did finish A December to Remember and Christmas at the Lake, both very like hallmarky, right? A December to Remember was very much cute because it talked about the solstice. So it was a
Okay.
soul. It was it was three half sisters. Their father passes, and they are tasked with certain things in order to take over their father's eclectic estate. And they had kind of become not necessarily estranged, but they were not close because they came from different,
Right.
families, and they had spent their summers together only as they were children, and then they kind of grew apart. So it becomes this really heartwarming, sweet, like you end up loving the crazy father. Like there's just a lot of great things that happen in it,
Yeah.
and couldn't put that one down. So super easy. Christmas at the Lake was very Hallmark, right?
Okay.
Very
It
Hallmark.
seems like it. Like I don't know why, but I just looking at it, I'm like, that seems like a Hallmark book for sure.
Right? Yeah, very much. But it was like it's a very powerful woman. She co-owns a dating app with her fiance, and they are set to get married and everything. And the day of the wedding, he comes in and he's like, "Cannot do, like, not, I can't do this." So she ends up going on their honeymoon at this little snow town at the lake, and that's where everything takes place. She runs into somebody that she knew in college. They work together, and it's just kind of their lives and how they
I
spiral
love
around one
that.
another. So it was very super, like I said, at times predictable, which was comfortable, which is what I wanted, but also it was still good in a way that I was like, oh, didn't expect that, or like, oh, would not have like chosen that or whatever. They're just, I liked the characters. They were fun. The side characters are great. You end up loving the side characters as much as you love the two main characters. So, and you end up hating the right people. So it's, it's a book that I was like, okay.
Excellent.
I was like, I know who to like, I know who not to like. And I also
Yes.
know like it's a good one. So Christmas at the Lake was great. A December to Remember are both great. So those are things that you can put on your list for like end of the year. Just do some
Yes.
planning.
We'll come back to those.
Plan out your reads. Yes. So two of the ones that I highly recommend for that. But those were
Nice.
my first two
Okay.
that like started my year off. And I was like, we started calm, we started cozy, which I like. And
Yes.
we only slightly changed from calm and cozy. So
Well,
what do you
that's
have
good
next?
because I have
Right?
been all over the place. So I figured once I finished my first read of your book, I was like, okay, it's time to do some work. So I revisited
Ooh.
The Happiness Project.
Mm,
This book
I've not read that one.
is great. You haven't?
No.
Okay, so I actually, I, this is another one I read pretty, I'm not going to say annually, but I do come
Okay.
back to.
Regularly.
So I was like, I feel like I'm going to start the year off with it. it is basically 12 months of how to be happier.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and and not in like a I'm not happy, but like there are things that are bothering me that should not be bothering me. So like what is happening, and it gives you a chance to refocus on what does make you happy so that those things become your focus like in front of you. And so it's just kind of switching gears from like all the craziness that's happening, all the negativity that's going on, and you're
Yeah.
like, listen, like, let's talk about loving, and let's talk about having more fun in everyday mundane things. Let's talk
Yeah.
about singing in the shower just because it's absurd and makes you smile, and like, who cares if anybody else is enjoying it? So it's
Fair.
stuff like that, like pursue a passion project. Like, what are you doing in your life that could bring you more happiness, and telling people
That's fair.
that you love them, sharing that, spreading that. And so I love the reminders in it, just to, it feels like a recentering of like
Yeah.
what's important and to focus on that. So I was like, I think this is a good January read just to
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of set your mind right for like, okay, I feel like the holidays January timeframe is very much a reset, and people are
Yeah.
setting goals and they're like, okay, here's what I'm doing looking forward on the year. So very simple, subtle changes just to focus on the goodness in front of you. So I love
I
that
like that.
reminder. So I was like, yes, January
Intentional
read.
joy. We like
Hmm.
that. We
Hmm.
like intentional joy. I
Yes.
think I usually take the like December, January, February, and I tend to just kind of like hunker down during that time,
Hmm.
right? I love the idea of
Yep.
starting a new year and like having all these plans and all that stuff. But I usually tend to just kind of like cocoon in
Let it
and then
happen.
right
Yes.
and then I kind of start my new year March, April, where I'm like,
Uh-huh.
all right,
Now
like
we're
end of
coming
March,
out of
beginning of
it.
April, like we're
Yes.
ready. So I tend to do it more that way than I do beginning of the year because I
Hmm.
feel like I put so much effort into the end of the year that after
Yeah.
that I'm like I just need to like refocus. I need to
Yes.
kind of pull myself back together. Um,
Yes.
I definitely did not go in that direction for my third read of the year,
Okay.
because I ended up finishing Invisible Monsters by Chuck
Yes.
Palahniuk, which is not intentional joy. And we will have a larger discussion about this on the next episode. So I'm gonna put this sucker aside because I have thoughts. I
I
don't
was
hate it.
gonna say,
I'm gonna tell you, I don't hate
I
it.
know you, I saw your star rating and I was like, okay, we haven't talked about it, but I see her stars and I
Right?
can't wait to talk about
Right.
this.
So
But I,
there's a lot to talk about, but it's literally a whole episode because it
yes,
goes into like his writing style and the things that it makes you think about and all that kind of stuff. Well, so we'll do that. But I
in the
read it.
next one.
I read it.
Yes.
I rated it. I didn't hate it. So all good things there. So
And that's a huge departure from Christmas
it
at the
is
Lake.
100% like these are not the same. Like they may be both colorful. These are not the same. Literally, it was
No.
like my first dip into like, it was like, oh, this is a horror book. And I was like, what? Like I put it into my thing and it was like, this is a horror book. And I was like, I don't read horror books. I don't read thrillers. That's what this is. You knew that. But that's what this is.
I did know that.
I didn't know
And
that.
I was like, I
I
don't
didn't know
care
that.
what your genre is, you're gonna read this book.
Right? This is not dark fantasy, dark romance at all. At all.
Mm-mm.
At all.
No.
And we'll talk. We'll talk. I have to. Otherwise, it's going to be a whole second episode right now. So
Okay, fine. I will
that
cut
was
you
my
off
next one. Yes. Do your next one.
with my third book. Okay, it's called Herc.
Oh, okay. I saw this on your thing and I loved the cover. Totally
I
judged it by
love
its
the
cover.
cover. This was given to me by your sister
Okay.
a long time ago.
Fair.
A long time ago. And I brought said sister a book at Christmas. And I was like, hey, here's my favorite book. You should read it. And of course, my husband, always the voice of reason, is like, but you haven't read that book that she gave you. So
Oh
maybe you should read
no.
that book.
Oh
And
no.
I was
Okay.
like,
All right.
oh, sir, that wasn't on my bingo card for January. Like, I have a
No.
whole list that I'm like, I want to read
I
this
have
and this
a
and this and
plan.
this. And he's like, maybe you should jump into this. So I did. Again,
Okay.
I'm sensing a theme of forced reading.
I was gonna say both of our like early January books were very much like things someone else was like, "Hey, read this."
Yes.
So nice of us to follow along. Very first
So,
child syndrome of us.
right? I'm like, if that doesn't say exactly who we are, I don't know what else would.
Right?
This book, I gave it 2 stars,
You gave it a 2?
which
We
might have
just
been
talked about.
generous.
Oh no. Oh no.
So,
Tell me more.
so the book was, it just was not for me, and I
Okay.
didn't understand it. So this is a retelling of Hercules' life
Okay.
by people in his life.
Okay. I'm not hating this
So,
so far.
so let's say it was a story about you. It would be different chapters are different people. So it would be like your mom would write a chapter, your dad would write a chapter, your brother, your sister,
Oh,
your
okay.
best friend, your boss. Like everybody is coming together. And they basically just shit on him the whole book.
No.
And okay, here's the other thing. I don't understand Greek mythology. Like it's not
Oh, okay.
something I know
Fair.
very well.
That might have
I
helped.
know I know Hercules from the Disney movie.
Okay. All right. There's
This is not
This is
this
not
is not a
Disney.
Disney movie.
No. So there's a lot more to Hercules than
Yeah, apparently dude was an asshole. Like
singing. He was a demigod. He was a part god. Like, of course he was an asshole.
so and people gave him passes for so many things that shouldn't
Yeah.
have been.
Yeah.
Um but so the back of the book just says a queer revisionist retelling of the story of Hercules. And so it's just everyone else in his life giving their
It's the honest eulogy, is what you're telling me.
basically yes.
Huh. I need to borrow that
So
book. Because now I'm like,
okay,
okay, now I want to read it. It's that same like the stinks read it. Like the
you can
stinks you
has.
smell it.
Yes.
I will read this because it almost feels like a fractured fairy tale to me. I know it's Greek mythology, but
It
it almost feels
kind
like
of,
that, and I'm
yes.
obsessed with those. So
Okay.
I
And
will be
I
interested to
and
see
it
if I like it.
I gave it a 2 star because it just was not for me. Like it
Hmm.
just was not something that I enjoyed or that I could really get into
Right.
or that I also don't love like the negative. I'm like, why are we talking shit
Why are we
about
being mean?
people?
That's fair.
Like, can we find nice things to say? And
Right.
so when I look to books, I want to escape. I don't want to, I don't know. I don't know. It wasn't for me. And so I gave it a 2 stars because it wasn't for me, not because it was not a good book.
Fair. I feel like that's very different coming off of the Happiness Project.
Yes.
Like that probably also played a part in the
Yes.
fact that you were like, "Oh my god, we just talked about like how to be a kinder, better human, and all of
Right?
you are just having a shit picnic on this
Yeah.
man's life."
Yeah.
Okay.
Granted, maybe deserved it. Like,
Right, like not saying that
definitely not innocent in a lot of things.
the Greeks weren't really
Um,
innocent in a lot of things. They did a lot of great things, but
no,
also
right. So yeah, just not my cup of tea, but you actually really might like it because you
okay.
do like the fractured fairy tales and you
I do.
understand this a little bit more than I do. So, yes. Yes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I do not hate that. Um I'm trying to remember which book I read next. Because I read them also. Like there was a period of like 2 weeks where it was like book, 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 and I was like, "What
Yes.
happened?" So I'm not exactly sure what was going on, um, but I'm pretty sure it's this one that we talked about before. So again, another one that I can kind of like throw by the wayside for the moment because we've already talked about it twice, right? Before the coffee gets cold. I have talked about this book with so many people, like on Threads, on Fable, on whatever. Like I'm even okay because I haven't read that one yet, right?
It's my next one.
Okay,
Go
perfect. Because
ahead.
I have one like I have the others in it, but again, we've talked about this. I loved this one. Somebody else was talking about, I think they had said on Fable, they're like, oh, I'm looking forward to this one as my next one. And I was like, oh my God, I loved it. Also, like, I have the next one. She was like, I also have the third one. She was like, but I think that you can like read them. She's like, I don't know if you can read them like out of order. So you'll be able to tell me next if it's possible to read these like out of order and call it a thing. And I want to say that this is a recommendation that someone's planning to make to their book club. I think, because we have like hyped it up so much. So I was like, we're like, this is a thing. Yes. So again, a brief mention of how much we love this one. That's just going to go in there because it was read this month, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. So your turn, because I want to know about that one, because that's on my list.
So that one is because we talked about it in our, it was either 5-star. No, it was the one that we wish we could read again for the first time.
Yep.
And someone said, is that one a good one for book club? And I was like,
yes, it is. Yes. And it's not
perfect. It's not long. I think that's great, but there's so many talking points because it is so good. Right. Okay. I got book 2.
Okay, good.
And I was like, I have to read this. Equally as good as the first one.
Oh, good.
Gave it 5 stars. Okay. Different people, different scenarios.
Can you read it out of order? Like, could I pick up book 2
I feel like you
one?
could.
Okay.
I feel like you could. Although I feel like book 1 lays a lot of the framework about the cafe, about the rules. We go into book 2 with a brief overview.
Okay. But there's more
of the rules, but I feel like you could get away with going into this.
Okay.
The stories in the first one, I feel like, how do I say this without being spoilers? I feel like the first book, the stories and the themes of the people then change their life for the better.
Okay.
Right? You couldn't change the present, but you could set stuff up for the future. And I feel like that's a lot of the stories in the first one.
Yeah.
In this one, it was more about closure for this group that it follows. And I think there's still like individual stories and stuff like that. But I feel like the theme was, closure for oneself.
Interesting. Because we had, before the coffee gets cold, the Tales of the Cafe is the name of that one.
Yes.
And I have to go back and look. I literally own all 5, right? Because like I said, I bought them all. So I just have to get to a point where I'm going to read it. But the other books that I've read this month have definitely like set me for so many different places that I will get to it eventually. Like I have to focus.
Yeah, I got that one. And I think it was good that I picked it up after Herc because I was like, okay, I need like something good human.
Yeah.
And you'll see why on my next book, why I have delayed picking it up. So.
Okay. All right. Yes. Very fair. Yes. My next one, I think talked about at the very end of one of the last episodes of 5-star reads. Talked about it at the end. It was The Cottage Around the Corner because I did go back and switch it and made it a 5-star read because it was. Did you? I have recommended this to several people already. And it's one of those that like, it was just cute, right? It's just cute. I loved it. It again is about a woman named Charlie and how her parents own a little witchy shop and like the things that go on in her little town. It's very cute. You can go get a full back in the last episode, you can get a full rundown of what I said about it and how much I loved it. But it was a feisty witch and a handsome mage, and we're putting them together, enemies to lovers sort of thing. Very cute. No spice. Yes. No spice whatsoever I don't even think it like hinted at spice. It was just a good, easy read. You could read it alongside your children and just be fine and no blushing necessary. So all of that is good. All of that is very good. But that's why I loved that one, Cottage Around the Corner there, to the point that like I had got in because I had needed something from the next book I was reading. I had gone into my little shop and I was like, hey, I just bought a new book. Do you have this other one or whatever? And they're like, yeah, sure. And they tried to give me this one back again. And they were like, yeah, we picked this one out for you because I had tagged them in the story of it. And I was like, no, I already have this one. And they're like, but this is the one you wanted. I was like, no, it's not. But I already read that one and I highly recommend it. If I could buy it again and read it again, I would. But I was like, I already own it. So not that. But again, The Cottage Around the Corner, super cute. And actually, I think we put the link to that one and the other ones that we had in the comments or in the
In
description
the
of
notes.
last time. Yeah, in the notes. So if you
Yes.
need links to any of the books that we had for last
Yeah.
two times, I think they're there. We'll do the same thing again for this one, just to make sure because it's easy.
Just to make it easy, because
And they're
it,
all
where you're
right.
like, what was that book she was talking about? What was the
Yes.
name of that? Now I can't remember. Clickable.
Yes.
Just
And
click and
they're all
add.
Amazon links to make it easy no matter where you are. So you could always just take that as like a shopping list and take it to your local bookstore. We always recommend shopping small when and where possible. But I get
We
that
love
sometimes you just
local.
want the book when you want it, right? So
Yeah,
I had to do that
we got
recently,
it.
which we'll talk about. So what's next on yours?
Okay.
Do you have
So
next?
this is kind of cheating. Yes.
Okay.
So I am in the middle of this book. Lies. I am
Holy
22% done
what
with this
okay.
book.
Does your reading app track and tell you how much percentage you're done?
Yes.
Mine does
That's
too, and
how I
I'm
know I'm
loving it.
22%, right?
I'm weirdly loving it because once I get past
Yes.
that 33, I'm like, I'm a third of the way done with this crap. Like
I am
I'm in
so
it.
much closer.
Right?
Yes.
And it's not because I'm rushing to finish it. It just feels like a
Feels
milestone.
better,
So,
especially when it's a big old
when it's
girl like this.
huge, right? To know
So
that you're
this is,
20% through that?
yes, this is 725 pages.
So it's like 3 books or two books. We'll give it
This
two
is
books.
also book 6 of the series I was quickly reading through at the end
Right.
of the year.
Is this the biggest one in the
And
series?
this is the biggest one in the series.
Oh,
And I was like, this really could have been 2 books because I think they're about 300 pages.
okay.
So this one is massive. Yes, this is book
Yes.
6. This is the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. As I was picking these books up at several different local used bookstores, I had several different conversations with several different people, and they were all like fan favorites.
Oh,
And they were
nice.
like, you are going to love this. Like, we read through these have been out for a while. We read through these, like, everything she has is great. She started something on like maybe Tumblr or something because people were like, we need more. Like, and so it was fantastic. And I was like, okay, interesting. And I dove in. They are not wrong. They are great. They are
Everybody
easy
gave me great
reads.
advice.
Yeah, but like looking at this, and I knew that I loved the series, and I knew that it was going to be an easy read, and I knew that I would enjoy it once I got into it. But 725 pages was stopping me,
Yes.
which is why
It's
I read the
intimidating.
other ones first,
Yeah.
because this was a lot to look at. And I was
It's
like,
still a lot. Like,
I just don't know. But now that I'm 22% done with it, I'm
I can
like,
keep going.
oh,
And
oh,
once you
this
hit
is easy.
50%, that's a
Yes.
that's an
So
easy go.
I am including it because I know I'll finish it this weekend. I'll finish
Fair.
it before this video comes out.
See,
And
exactly,
so,
which counts. It counts.
and then it'll count because I won't be able to talk about it in February because I'll have read it in January and it'll be counted
Right.
on January. So I was like, I'm
We're
including
talking
this
about it.
one.
That's good.
This
Nice
one is,
motivation.
yes, right. So this series follows a group of kids. This is very much my genre. I love when people find out that they are magic or special or some other realm of something, right? Not
Slightly out
just,
of the ordinary. Not
yeah,
just
like you
normal
have
people.
magical powers.
We
So
all
my
want
vein
magical
of
powers.
reading. So this is what this is. This follows a group of shadow hunters as they deal with evils. And I don't want to say too much, so
Okay. Well, it's one
we'll
that I
just
think I'll
leave it
have
at
to
that.
add.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. Also, such a good author that I actually started collecting um, her other books and her other
Nice.
series and filling in those because I'm like, this is a good one for me. So
Perfect.
more to come.
I love that. And I love that,
Yeah.
like, I like that you recommend so many series because then I just have, like I said, I have a running list now. I'm getting ready to put it in
Yes.
my tracker. I'm going to take your
Yes.
advice and put it in my tracker. But I like that we are reading some slightly different things, which is exciting because then I'm like, oh, I can always add more.
Right. And it gives you a whole nother world to delve into.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
100%.
it's great. It's so great.
It
Yeah.
is.
So those were my 5 for
Perfect.
January, which keeps me on
Perfect.
track.
It does. Very much so. Almost ahead, right? Were there 5 weeks in January or 4? It feels like 6 months,
It
so I
feels
don't
like
actually
there's
know.
12, so I
Right?
don't know.
Right.
But
Fair
yeah.
enough. Fair enough.
So we probably should have just let you go first and then maybe done a couple because I think you have a few more than me. But let's see what's
Only,
next on your
like I said,
list.
only because I started to do the thing that I said I was going to do last year, and I started reading the Charlene Harris Sookie Stackhouse series. And so I am
Yes,
2 books
I
in. I
did
grabbed the
see
second
this.
book because I
Ooh, you're two
right,
books in?
I'm 2 books in, right? So I just finished the second one, and then had to pause to read the next thing because I was like, I can't just fly through this, right? Um, I have significant thoughts about some of these
Yes.
things.
Okay.
And it's funny because Mike is the one who gave them to me, right? Because he's read them, because he's watched the show, like all of the things. And he'll be like, okay, so where are you? And I'm like, all right. I'm like, and also he'll be like, well, have you met? I'm like, don't say a damn name. And
No,
he's like,
it's
what?
so
I'm
hard
like, don't
because
say
we
it
don't
because there's so many
know.
people and so many things. And so I'm like, oh, here's like, I've met this person and we're right here and we're doing this. And like these great size, these are biteable, right?
Yeah.
Pun not intended, pun kind of intended, whatever. It's a vampire series.
So good though.
Right. But this is the second one. Um, the thing is, it's not my favorite series right now, but I don't want to put it down. It's a very weird place to be.
Oh,
Right?
oh,
Right?
what?
And so it's not like I want to know what happens, but also she bugs the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I was like, and so like I'll be reading it and I'm like, this chick, I just like, I want someone to rip her head off. So it's, and and so like every time I'm talking to him with like mad eyes, like mad eyebrows. I'm like, okay, so, and he's like, what's going on? And I was like, here's why I am in the story, and also like, how is she so dumb, and how is she like, and so I think that's part of it. Like I think that's part of how it's supposed to be written. I don't think you're supposed to love her, um, and that's hard because most of the books that we read, you're supposed to love the main character who's narrating this whole thing.
Yeah.
And so there are certain, and knowing that there are so many books, there are certain characters where I'm like, don't trust him, don't like him, or like I like that one. Like why aren't we paying attention to him? So we're still in that place where we're building some of the characters, like we're
Mhm.
building Bill, we're building Eric, we're building whatever, and so working on it, right? Um, I don't like I said, I don't hate it. I want to keep reading. I keep thinking about it because I'm like, there's another book. There's another like 6, 7, 8 books. But also, when is she
What?
going to figure her
Yes.
shit out? So it
Yes.
doesn't give anything away, right? But we've got vampires, we've got shapeshifters, we've got werewolves, we've got whatever else. We've got things I can't pronounce. I'm giving them weird names. So
Yes.
whatever. Like there are things that there's one character and I was like, I don't know what this thing is. It reminds me of like a land mermaid that hates people, and he's like, what? I was like never mind. I was like, I know what I'm talking about. It's fine.
I know.
So I look forward. I honestly, literally look forward to finishing the series. Right. But I think I'm going to spread it out. I don't think I'm going to do it all in one. So I might do a couple. If I do a couple every month, that will keep me on track for the series. But it also won't overtake my entire month. I don't want an entire month to be just these. An entire month
Just
could be the whole series. I could blow through it in a
it
month, but
could
like
be
that doesn't fill my reading cup, which I realized
interesting.
because because my reading cup was fully filled um, with this one that I finished recently. It's called The Book Lover's Library,
Yeah.
and you'll hate it. It's historical fiction, um,
You'll
but
hate
it's
it.
you'll hate it. Actually, I don't think you will hate this one because it's adorable. It's about a woman who is a widow. She lives in England. It's during the time of World War II, where like Hitler's invading Poland and trying to invade France and like all these things. So they're worried about war. Emma has a daughter who's like 8 years old. And at that time, fun fact, at that time, if you were a widow with a young child, you couldn't get a job. You were not allowed to work. You would get a stipend, like a widow's stipend, but you were
Oh,
not allowed to hold a job, which is crap because how are you supposed to afford anything? And so
yeah.
she ends up getting a job at this place called the Book Lovers Library because it's way across town. And the woman who owns it was like, or the woman who is the manager is like, I get it. If you promise to like say your daughter's your sister if she ever shows up, like we're cool. And so it's basically her trials and tribulations through trying to raise her daughter in a time of war and like this is when they sent kids away to the country like to protect
Yeah.
them. This is like there's a lot happening, like a lot happening. And it's page 65 I started sobbing. Like that's
Oh
16% into the
no.
book, like just
Yeah.
crying, and I was like, oh, okay, it's a Tuesday morning, like what is happening? And so I was like, this is a great, like, honestly, like, I think I went on Threads, was like, this is a great start to my day. I'm already crying. And I like meant it fully with my whole heart. Like, it was a very good, like, it made me feel something.
Yes.
I will tell you, it's probably been my favorite book that I've read all month, to the point that I went and bought all 5 books that this woman has written. Like, went and ordered them,
Oh,
went to the store to try to find them.
wow.
So I
Yeah.
started, so this is the Book Lovers Library. There's one called The Last Bookshop in London. They all seem to be historical fiction. There's like
Okay.
the Librarian Spy or something is another one. And so
Okay.
they're all in that same vein, along the same, the same idea. But I definitely went and bought all of them, and I was like, I can't not
Interesting.
read these. Um, and
Okay.
so from what I hear, there may be like small cameos in different books from
Maybe
different
some
things, depending
overlap.
on, right.
Yeah.
And I don't know who or where. This is not the first one. She had written the Last Bookshop in London first, I believe, and then the
Okay.
Book Lovers Library came out. But I loved the Book Lovers Library. I loved the idea of a lending library for like the elite individuals, right? Like, you had a subscription to the lending library where you could come in and get your books, but you had your own like little tab. And I was like, I want nothing more to work at a book lovers library. Like, why? But these were real things, right? These were things that really happened. And I will tell you, they did not repeal the widows with children can't work thing until 1975. History fact for you right there. 1975, when they were like, okay,
Wow.
you should be able to have a job. But so yes, they did, things like this did actually happen. Certain parts of the story were actually real. So it was moving. It was 100% a 5-star book.
I love that.
Right? It was so good. It was so good. I would recommend it to
Interesting.
anybody who doesn't even like history, right? Because it's not like the war and what's happening are not the focus of the story. The focus is Emma and her
Okay.
daughter.
Yeah.
And so I think
And
it's
that kind of
just,
transcends
yeah,
like what is
yeah. It
happening in
could
the
be,
time.
you could have taken her and the things that she's trying to discover and the things that she's trying to decide and the things that she's trying to work through, as a woman and a mother and a whatever. And you can put them in any time period. You can put them into the future and it wouldn't matter. And so highly, highly recommend that one, to the point that I'm like, this may be one that I go buy other people because I don't know that I want to give this one up. I might go buy it and hand it to people. Like,
I will just tell you, go buy your own copy
right?
because it's
Like,
great.
because
You
it's
cannot
like,
have mine.
no, you're just going to want to, like, you're just going to want it. It's fine.
Interesting.
So that was the last one that I read so far. Like I said, I started the other one. I do
Hmm.
have a book
Hmm.
that I haven't finished yet. I didn't read Big Magic, which I thought I would. I haven't read it yet, but I
Same.
think, right, I think I'll push that one later. I don't think I need it yet.
Yeah.
And then, um, the overthinking one that I'm reading, the magical something of
I did see
overthinking.
that one.
I
Yes.
haven't finished it yet, but it's very much, it makes you think, right?
Yeah.
So I look forward to finishing that one, but I'm not in a rush. It's kind of nice to have two. I
It's
keep
one of
going
those
back
like a
to it,
morning read, like where you
right?
read a couple pages and it kind of
Yeah.
sets you up like in your morning routine. And yeah,
Yeah. And it's not
yes.
even like, it's not a super feel good book. It's a book that makes you think. So it's not one that I'm reading at night. It's not one that like we've started to do
Yeah.
reading time with the kids where like every night before bed we literally all sit down and read for half an hour. So you're either reading, drawing, or writing. You can choose what you do for that half an hour to kind of wind down. And
Hmm.
it's not one that I'm doing that with. I'm not winding down with that if I have to like think of the
It's not a
halo
wind
effect.
down.
No,
Mm-mm.
no. That's a lot of words. So,
Yeah.
but
And that just gets your
those,
brain running.
right. So that puts me, I think it's six. I think that's 6 books.
I was gonna say, I
One,
think you're
two.
at six. That's the last count I saw.
Yeah, but I have to add the second. I forgot to add this one to my thing. So I have to add this one because I didn't add
Oh,
it on yet. But for those of you who do follow us on Instagram, we have a highlight where we keep each of our books for the year, or we're keeping each of our books. So there's one that says Abby's reads, there's one that says Meg's reads, and that has a picture of all of our books as we read them. So if you are looking for something and didn't remember, you can always just pop through the highlights over there and figure it out because they're all right
yes.
there.
You can come see what we're reading and see if you've
Yes.
read it. I've had a
Yes.
lot of conversations with people about like, oh, I saw you read this book. I read it,
Yes.
and here's what I thought. And
Yes.
I love that.
I
So
love it too.
come and tell me if you've read it. And I actually had someone who was like, hey, I need book recommendations. And I was like, please go check our stories because
They're already in.
you'll know if I recommend them there.
Yes. Yep. And
You'll
I've
know.
started some of them I add a little bit too. Sometimes I put a star rating on them. Sometimes I add like a little, like, I think on the Book Lovers Library one, I was like, this is wonderful. But some of the others are like, if they're there, if I don't say I hated it, then it's probably something I recommended. Right? Because if I hated it,
I'll
tell
let you know if
I
I don't recommend. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be very clear if it's not one that I liked. So, excited to see what everybody else has been reading this month. I don't know that I will hit the same amount of books next month as I did this month. This seems to be a little bit of an outlier for me, but I don't hate being a little bit ahead, knowing that the spring, especially, is going to be really busy. So I don't mind kind of padding the stats for my goal this year. I don't mind padding that a little bit on the front end.
Yes. And if you need a catch up mid-year, we're definitely having a book retreat.
We are.
So we can you can have a little catch up weekend with us.
Yes, and definitely pad your stats there as well. But we will get more information out to you very soon. So we gotta start putting that out there and talking about it. So we'll do that. So make sure you're following us on both on Instagram and Threads, where we spend a lot of our daily talk time. But otherwise, it's Facebook. So we've got a Facebook page and a Facebook group. Facebook group is a little bit more for those in-depth discussions and some more of the information that we know that our book individuals are excited about learning about. So happy to have you on any of those.
Yeah, it's so much easier to have the conversations there and like have meaningful conversations. I feel like when you're limited to like how many characters you can have, or like, you know, you're just like, I'm now watering this down and can't give you the full description. So definitely join our Facebook group and come chat books and book things.
Yep. All of the links are below. Like, everything's down there in the description and everywhere else. So click all the things. If you made it this far, we appreciate having you here. Don't forget to like, and if you're not subscribed already, as we said before, subscribe in 25, right? What are you doing?
Subscribe in 25. What is happening?
We're here every week as much as can be. So
and apparently so are you, but you're not subscribed. So
hit the button.
What?
Hit the button. Other than that, we will catch you on the next one, where we are going to have a very in-depth conversation about some things that I have opinions on. So we're doing our first author study.
Love Meg's opinions.
They are hot. So
we have opinions.
We do. But other than that, we will see you next week.
Bye.
It was great to have you join us for today's chat. If you'd like to continue the conversation, provide a recommendation, or simply say hi, pop over to Instagram at wine.read.wine. Also, if you're the review type person, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave us an honest review on your favorite podcast player. Or leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. We'll see you on the next episode. Happy reading!